The evening air had a bite to it as Lily Rodriguez drove home from her night shift at Memorial Hospital. The moon hung low in the sky, casting long shadows across the empty streets of Pine Creek. After 12 hours of rushing between patients in the emergency room, all she wanted was a hot shower and her bed. The red and blue lights flashed in her rearview mirror without warning. Lily's stomach dropped as she checked her speedometer. She hadn't been speeding. Signaling right, she pulled over to the curb, the patrol car stopping behind her. The headlights were blinding in her mirrors. What did I do wrong? She whispered to herself, hands gripping the steering wheel at 10 and 2, just like her father had taught her. The exhaustion from her shift made her eyes burn as she blinked rapidly, trying to stay alert. Lily watched in her side mirror as 2 officers emerged from the patrol car. The taller one approached her window while his partner circled around to the passenger side. Their flashlights swept across her back seat before landing on her face, making her squint. "License and registration," the officer demanded without introducing himself. His nameplate read, Officer Reyes. There was no greeting, no explanation for why she'd been pulled over. "Just a command, of course," Lily said, keeping her voice steady as she reached slowly for her purse on the passenger seat. "May I ask why I'm being stopped, Officer Reyes?" The officer's expression hardened. "License and registration first, ma'am. We'll get to the why after you comply with my request." Something about his tone made her skin prickle. Lily had been pulled over twice before, once for a burned-out taillight and once for going 5 miles over the speed limit on a country road. Both times the officers had been professional, even friendly. This felt different. Her hospital ID badge hung from her rearview mirror, and her blue scrubs were wrinkled from her long shift. Surely they could see she was just a tired nurse heading home. "Here you go, sir," she said, handing over her license and the registration she'd pulled from the glove compartment. Her hands trembled slightly, not from guilt but from a growing sense of unease. Officer Reyes took the documents and shined his flashlight on them, then back at her face, as if confirming her identity. "Been drinking tonight, Ms. Rodriguez?" The question caught her off guard. "What?" "No. I just finished my shift at the hospital. I'm an ER nurse. I've been working since 7 last night." The second officer, a younger man with Officer Patel on his nameplate, leaned down on the passenger side. "We've heard that one before, haven't we, Reyes?" "Sure have," Officer Reyes said with a smirk. "Everyone's got an excuse for driving like they own the road." Lily felt heat rising in her cheeks. "I wasn't driving recklessly. I've been going the speed limit the whole way home. I'm very careful after night shifts because I know I'm tired." "So you admit you're too tired to drive safely?" Officer Patel asked, his tone suggesting he'd caught her in a confession. "That's not what I said," Lily replied, fighting to keep her voice level. "I said I'm careful because I know I'm tired." "There's a difference." Officer Reyes tapped her license against his palm. "Step out of the vehicle, please." "What?" "Why?" The request made her heart race. "I haven't done anything wrong." "Ma'am, when an officer gives you a lawful command, you need to follow it. Step out of the vehicle now." His voice had dropped an octave, taking on a threatening edge. Lily unclicked her seatbelt, her mind racing. Was this how it went wrong for all those people she'd seen on the news? The ones who ended up hurt or worse during what should have been routine traffic stops? "I'm going to reach for my phone," she said clearly. "It's in my pocket. I'd like to call my husband." "You can call whoever you want after we're done here," Officer Reyes said. "Right now you need to step out of the car." Officer Patel circled around to join his partner. People who make phone calls during stops usually have something to hide. The accusation stung. "I'm not hiding anything. I just want my husband to know what's happening." "And what exactly is happening, ma'am?" Officer Reyes asked with exaggerated patience. "We're conducting a routine traffic stop. Unless there's something you're not telling us that would make this more than routine." Lily felt trapped between compliance and standing up for herself. The logical part of her brain, the nurse who dealt with emergencies daily, told her to stay calm and follow instructions. But another part, the part that recognized unfair treatment when she saw it, screamed at her to protect herself. "I'm going to call my husband," she repeated, more firmly this time. "He's an attorney, and I want him to be aware of this situation." Something flickered across Officer Reyes's face. Surprise, perhaps, or annoyance. "An attorney, huh?" "Everyone's got connections when they're in trouble." "I'm not in trouble," Lily insisted, pulling out her phone. "At least I shouldn't be." "I still don't know why you pulled me over." Officer Patel exchanged a look with his partner. You were swerving, ma'am. Crossed the center line twice in the last mile. Lily knew that wasn't true. The road from the hospital was straight, well lit, and she'd been driving it for years. She hadn't swerved or crossed any lines. That's not true, she said quietly as she scrolled to find her husband's number. And I think you know it's not true. Are you calling an officer of the law a liar? Officer Reyes leaned closer to her window, his face now just inches from hers. Because that's a pretty serious accusation. Lily pressed the call button and put the phone to her ear, praying that Tom would answer. He was supposed to be waiting up for her, maybe even making her breakfast as he sometimes did after her night shifts. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Lily's palms were sweaty, and she was acutely aware of the 2 officers watching her every move. You have the right to remain silent, Officer Patel said with a smirk, as if he found the situation amusing. Anything you say can and will be used against you. Am I being arrested? Lily asked, her voice rising with alarm. For what? Nobody said anything about arrest, Officer Reyes replied, though his tone suggested it was still on the table. But refusing to comply with an officer's instructions is obstruction. The phone rang a 4th time, and then Lily heard the blessed sound of her husband's voice. Tom, she breathed, relief washing over her. I've been pulled over on Maple Street near the old cinema. 2 officers. They won't tell me why they stopped me, and they're asking me to get out of the car. She could hear rustling on the other end of the line, the sound of keys being grabbed. I'm on my way, Tom said, his voice calm but determined. 3 minutes, tops. I was just about to bring you breakfast from that diner you like. Put me on speaker. Lily lowered the phone and pressed the speaker button. You're on speaker, Tom. I'm here with Officers Reyes and Patel. Officers, Tom's voice came through clearly. This is Thomas Rodriguez. I'm Lily's husband and an attorney with Westbrook and Associates. I'll be there momentarily. In the meantime, I'd appreciate if you could tell my wife why she was pulled over. Officer Reyes straightened up, his demeanor shifting subtly. Mr. Rodriguez, your wife was observed driving erratically. We're conducting a standard field sobriety test. I have not consented to any tests, Lily interjected, finding courage in her husband's presence, even if only through the phone. And I have not been driving erratically. Officers, Tom said, his voice steady and professional. I understand you're doing your job, but I'd like to remind you that all traffic stops should be conducted with probable cause. If my wife was truly driving erratically, then that's a valid reason for a stop. But she's coming off a 12-hour shift saving lives in the ER, and she deserves to be treated with respect. The mention of her profession seemed to give Officer Patel pause. He glanced at her hospital ID badge again, then at her scrubs. We're just following protocol here, Officer Reyes said, but his tone had lost some of its edge. Lily could hear an engine starting on Tom's end of the call. I'll be there in 2 minutes, he said. Officers, I'm sure you're aware that your body cameras are recording this interaction. My wife has identified herself as a healthcare worker returning from her shift. She has no history of traffic violations or criminal record of any kind. I trust you'll conduct yourselves accordingly until I arrive. The mention of body cameras seemed to have an effect. Officer Patel took a small step back and Officer Reyes returned Lily's license and registration. Wait in your vehicle, ma'am, he said, no longer demanding she step out. We'll sort this out when your husband arrives. As they retreated to their patrol car, Lily let out a shaky breath she hadn't realized she was holding. They're going back to their car, she told Tom, her voice barely above a whisper. Thank you for answering. Always, Tom replied, and she could hear the determination in his voice. I'll be there before you know it. Just stay calm and stay in the car. Lily watched the officers in her rearview mirror, their faces illuminated by the glow of their dashboard computer. They were talking, gesturing occasionally, clearly reassessing their approach now that they knew a lawyer was on the way. The night air felt colder than before, or maybe it was just the adrenaline wearing off, leaving her drained and shivering. Lily clutched her phone like a lifeline, counting the seconds until her husband would arrive. In the distance, she saw headlights approaching, slowing as they neared the scene. Tom's silver sedan pulled in about 20 feet ahead of her car. Even from here, she could see the determined set of his shoulders as he stepped out into the night, ready to challenge the officers who had made his wife feel so small. Tom stepped out of his car with purpose, straightening his tie as he approached. Even in jeans and a casual button-down thrown on in haste, he carried himself with the confidence of someone who knew the law inside and out. The smell of fresh coffee and breakfast sandwiches wafted from the paper bag he'd left on his passenger seat. Lily watched through her windshield as her husband nodded politely to the officers, who had emerged from their patrol car at his arrival. The flashing lights continued to paint the street in alternating red and blue, creating long shadows across Tom's face. "Good evening, officers," Tom said, his voice carrying clearly through the night air. "I'm Thomas Rodriguez, Lily's husband." Officer Reyes squared his shoulders. "Sir, I need you to return to your vehicle. This is a traffic stop in progress." "I understand that," Tom replied calmly, "and as my wife's attorney, I have a right to be present during questioning. Now, would you mind telling me why my wife was pulled over at 7:30 in the morning after working a 12-hour shift saving lives?" Officer Patel glanced nervously at his partner. "We observed erratic driving behavior, sir." "Possible DUI," Tom raised an eyebrow. "My wife doesn't drink. She's wearing hospital scrubs and has her ID badge hanging from her mirror. Seems like an unusual DUI suspect, wouldn't you agree?" "We can't make exceptions based on appearance or occupation," Officer Reyes said firmly. "The law applies equally to everyone." "I couldn't agree more," Tom said with a nod. "Which is why I'd like to understand what specific erratic behavior you observed that justified this stop." Lily rolled down her window further, listening to the exchange. Her hands had stopped shaking, but her heart still pounded in her chest. She felt a mixture of relief at Tom's presence and lingering anger at how she'd been treated. "She was swerving and crossed the center line twice," Officer Reyes stated, his tone suggesting this wasn't up for debate. Tom turned to Lily. "Were you swerving, hon?" "No," she said firmly. "I drove straight home like I always do. Same route I take 3 times a week after my night shifts." Tom pulled his phone from his pocket. "Would you mind if I recorded this conversation? For my wife's protection and yours?" Officer Patel shifted uncomfortably. "Sir, we already have body cameras." "Excellent," Tom said with a smile that didn't quite reach his eyes. "Then we'll have multiple records of this interaction. Now, Officer Reyes, you mentioned my wife crossed the center line twice. Can you tell me exactly where this occurred?" The officer hesitated. "About half a mile back near the intersection with Oak Street." Tom nodded thoughtfully. "That's interesting, because that stretch of road has a concrete median divider. There is no center line to cross." A heavy silence fell over the scene. In the distance, an early morning delivery truck rumbled past, its driver slowing briefly to look at the police lights before continuing on. "Perhaps it was further back," Officer Reyes amended, a slight flush creeping up his neck. "Near the high school." "Also a divided road," Tom pointed out quietly. "Look, officers, I understand you have a job to do. But so does my wife. She just spent 12 hours treating car accident victims, heart attacks, and a child with a severe asthma attack. She's exhausted, but she was driving safely and lawfully." Lily watched as Tom maintained steady eye contact with Officer Reyes. Neither man looked away. Engaged in a silent battle of wills. "Sir, are you accusing us of making an unlawful stop?" Officer Reyes finally asked, his voice dropping dangerously low. "I'm merely pointing out inconsistencies in your stated reason for pulling over my wife," Tom replied evenly. "Now, has she broken any actual laws that you can verify?" Officer Patel cleared his throat. "Her right taillight appears dim." Lily's eyebrows shot up in surprise. This was the first mention of any taillight issue. "My car is only 2 years old," she said. "I had it serviced last month." "Let's check," Tom suggested, walking around to the back of Lily's car. The officers followed, and Lily twisted in her seat to watch through the rear window. All 3 men stood behind her car, staring at her perfectly functional taillights, illuminated clearly by the headlights of the patrol car. "They look fine to me," Tom observed. "Would you like her to tap the brakes so you can verify they're working properly?" Without waiting for an answer, he called out, "Lily, could you tap your brakes a couple of times, please?" She did as requested, pressing the brake pedal 3 times in succession. The red glow of her brake lights illuminated the officers' faces each time, working flawlessly. "Seems to be in perfect working order," Tom said. "So, officers, I'm still waiting to hear what traffic violation my wife has committed." Officer Reyes's jaw tightened. "Sir, your attitude isn't helping this situation." "With all due respect, Officer Reyes, it wasn't my attitude that escalated this situation," Tom replied. "It was the way you treated my wife. a healthcare professional returning home after caring for this community all night. Like a criminal, without cause. A passing car slowed down, the driver watching the scene with interest. Then another car passed and another. The early morning commuters were beginning to hit the roads and the traffic stop was attracting attention. Lily noticed an older woman in a neighboring house peering through her curtains at the commotion. Across the street, a man had stepped onto his porch, coffee in hand, watching openly. Officer Patel seemed to notice the growing audience too. He leaned in closer to his partner, whispering something Lily couldn't hear. Officer Reyes frowned but gave a short nod. "Mr. Rodriguez," Officer Patel said, stepping forward, "we appreciate your concern for your wife. We were simply doing our due diligence when we observed what appeared to be irregular driving patterns." "And what patterns were those, exactly?" Tom pressed. "First it was crossing a center line that doesn't exist. Then it was a taillight that works perfectly. I'm beginning to think there was no legitimate reason for this stop." Officer Reyes's face hardened. "Watch yourself, counselor. Questioning an officer's judgment during a traffic stop borders on obstruction." "Actually," Tom replied calmly, "requesting clarification about the reason for a stop is well within my rights as both an attorney and a citizen. Obstruction would require me to physically prevent you from performing your duties, which I have not done." More cars were slowing as they passed. A young man on a bicycle had stopped completely across the street, phone in hand, possibly recording. "This is becoming a public spectacle," Officer Patel muttered to his partner. Lily could see Officer Reyes weighing his options. The stop had gone from routine to complicated with Tom's arrival. And now they had an audience. "Mrs. Rodriguez," Officer Reyes finally said, turning to Lily, "I'm going to issue you a warning for the taillight. Please get it checked as soon as possible." "The taillight that's working perfectly?" Tom asked, raising an eyebrow. "Sometimes they work intermittently," Officer Patel offered weakly. Tom looked like he wanted to say more, but instead he took a deep breath and nodded. "Thank you, officers. Is my wife free to go now?" Officer Reyes handed Lily back her license and registration through the window. "Drive safely, ma'am." "I always do," Lily replied quietly, relief washing over her as she realized the ordeal was ending. Tom remained standing beside her car as the officers retreated to their patrol vehicle. Only when they had climbed inside did he lean down to Lily's window. "You okay?" he asked softly, all the legal formality dropping from his voice, replaced by genuine concern. Lily nodded, tears suddenly threatening. "I am now. Thank you for coming so quickly." "Always," he said, reaching through the window to squeeze her hand. "Follow me home? I've got breakfast getting cold in my car." "Breakfast sounds perfect," she said, managing a small smile. Tom walked back to his car as the police cruiser pulled away without another word. The small audience that had gathered began to disperse, though a few people lingered, watching Lily with expressions of solidarity. As she put her car in drive, Lily noticed a business card on her passenger seat that hadn't been there before. She picked it up, reading the name. Councilwoman Elena Vasquez, City Oversight Committee. On the back, someone had scribbled a note, "If you need to file a complaint, call me directly," along with a personal cell number. Lily slipped the card into her purse, then pulled away from the curb, following Tom's car. In her rearview mirror, she saw the older woman who had been watching from her window giving her a thumbs up from her front porch. The sun was fully up now, painting the morning sky in shades of pink and gold. As the adrenaline of the confrontation began to fade, exhaustion crept back in. Lily's eyes burned with fatigue, and her muscles ached from the long shift followed by the stress of the traffic stop. But as she drove the final blocks home, with Tom's car safely ahead of her, she felt something else too. A quiet, smoldering anger that this had happened at all, and a newfound determination that it shouldn't happen to anyone else. She followed Tom into their driveway, watching as he grabbed the breakfast bag from his car. He waited for her by the front door, his face a mixture of relief and lingering concern. "What a morning," he said as she joined him. "It's not over yet," Lily replied, her voice stronger than she expected. "After I get some sleep, we need to talk about filing a formal complaint." Tom nodded, understanding in his eyes. "Whatever you want to do, I'm with you." "I know," she said, leaning against him as he unlocked their front door. "That's why those officers didn't stand a chance." Lily woke up disoriented, the afternoon sun streaming through a gap in the curtains. For a moment, she couldn't remember why she felt so uneasy. Then the memory of the morning's traffic stop came flooding back. The accusatory tone of Officer Reyes, the smirk on Officer Patel's face, the feeling of being treated like a criminal. She glanced at the clock. 3:47 p.m. She'd managed to sleep for about 7 hours, longer than she usually did after a night shift. Tom had insisted she take one of the melatonin tablets they kept for his occasional insomnia, knowing she'd be too wound up to rest properly otherwise. The house was quiet, but she could smell coffee brewing. Tom was still home then. He must have canceled or rescheduled his meetings for the day. The thought warmed her. He'd never been one to put work before her well-being. Lily slipped out of bed and into her robe, padding barefoot to the kitchen. She found Tom at the dining table, his laptop open, a stack of papers beside it. He looked up when she entered, his face softening into a smile. "Hey there," he said. "Feeling any better?" "A little," she admitted, heading for the coffee pot. "Thanks for letting me sleep." Tom closed his laptop. "You needed it, especially after—" He trailed off, not wanting to immediately bring up the incident if she wasn't ready to discuss it. Lily poured coffee into her favorite mug, a gift from a patient's family last Christmas, and joined him at the table. After being harassed by the police for the crime of driving while tired, she finished for him, a hint of bitterness in her voice. "Yeah," Tom said quietly. "That." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, Lily sipping her coffee, Tom watching her with a mixture of concern and love. "I've been doing some research," he finally said, tapping his closed laptop, "about filing complaints against officers." Lily nodded, not surprised. It was so like Tom to jump straight into action mode, looking for solutions rather than just offering sympathy. It was one of the things she loved most about him. "What did you find out?" she asked. "Well, for starters, that business card you got wasn't a coincidence. Councilwoman Vasquez has been pushing for police reform for years. Apparently, there have been several complaints about Officers Reyes and Patel in the past 6 months. Lily raised her eyebrows. "Really, what kind of complaints?" "Mostly involving traffic stops. Disproportionately targeting women driving alone, minorities, and out-of-state plates. Nothing that's resulted in formal disciplinary action yet. But there's a pattern forming." Lily thought about the councilwoman's card, still tucked in her purse. "So someone was watching out for me even before you arrived." "Looks that way," Tom agreed. "The neighbors in that area have apparently started a kind of informal neighborhood watch. Not against crime, but against police overreach. That older woman who gave me the thumbs up," Lily mused, "and the guy with the coffee on his porch." "Exactly," Tom said. "I think they recognize the officer's patrol car by now." Lily shook her head, anger bubbling up again. "That's both reassuring and infuriating. Why are these officers still on patrol if there's a pattern of complaints?" "Because nothing's been formalized," Tom explained. "People get intimidated or they just want to move on with their lives. Filing an official complaint means interviews, possibly even appearing at a hearing. Most people don't follow through." Lily took another sip of her coffee, thinking, "But I shouldn't I?" Tom reached across the table and took her hand. "That's entirely up to you. I'll support whatever you decide." "What would you do?" she asked, already knowing the answer but wanting to hear it anyway. "Honestly, I'd fight it. Not just for us, but for everyone else they've targeted or might target in the future." His voice was gentle but firm. "But I also understand if you don't want to take that on. You've got enough on your plate with your work at the hospital." Lily squeezed his hand. "I want to file the complaint formally. And I want to talk to Councilwoman Vasquez." Tom smiled, pride evident in his eyes. "I thought you might say that. I've already drafted a statement while you were sleeping, just in case. Want to take a look?" Before Lily could answer, her phone buzzed with an incoming text. She pulled it from her robe pocket and frowned at the screen. "Everything okay?" Tom asked, noticing her expression. "It's from Ava at work," Lily said, reading the message. "She says there's something I need to see. She's sending a link." She waited as her phone chimed again, this time with a video attachment. Lily tapped the link, and her phone screen filled with a slightly shaky video. It showed the scene from that morning. Her car pulled over, the police cruiser behind it, and Tom standing between the officers, gesturing as he spoke. The video had clearly been taken by one of the bystanders. "Someone recorded it," she whispered, turning up the volume. The audio was surprisingly clear. Taillight that works perfectly? Tom's voice came through exactly as she remembered. Sometimes they work intermittently. Officer Patel's weak excuse followed. The video continued, showing the officers retreating to their vehicle and Tom checking on Lily. Then it panned to show several neighbors watching, including the older woman who had given Lily the thumbs up. "My name is Betty White." "No relation to the actress," the older woman suddenly said to the camera with a small smile. "And I've seen those officers pull over 3 different people on this street in the past week alone. Always women, always driving alone, until today when that young man showed up." She nodded toward Tom. "Good for him." The video ended with Betty White heading back into her house, the videographer turning the camera back to Lily's car just as she pulled away, following Tom. Lily looked up at Tom, who had come around the table to watch over her shoulder. "It's already being shared among my co-workers," she said. "Ava says everyone's talking about it." Tom looked concerned. "Are you okay with that? With people seeing you in that vulnerable position?" Lily thought about it for a moment. Yes, she decided, because it wasn't just me being vulnerable. It was also me being supported by you and apparently by the whole neighborhood. Her phone buzzed again. Another text from Ava. Channel 8 local news asking for interview. The video has 50K views already. "You're trending, girl." Lily showed the message to Tom, who whistled softly. "This is getting bigger than a simple complaint form." "Good," Lily said with sudden conviction. "Maybe that's what it takes to make real change." She stood up and walked to the window, looking out at their quiet suburban street. It was so different from the scene that morning. No flashing lights, no confrontation, just the peaceful late afternoon of a typical neighborhood. "I need to call Councilwoman Vasquez," she said, "and then I think we should do that interview." Tom joined her at the window, wrapping an arm around her shoulders. "You sure? Once this goes on the news, there's no going back. The department might try to discredit you, say you were actually driving poorly or that you're just seeking attention." "Let them try," Lily said, a new strength in her voice. "I have the video. I have witnesses. I have the councilwoman's support. And most importantly, I have you." Tom pressed a kiss to her temple. "Always." Lily pulled the business card from her purse and dialed the number on the back. It rang only twice before a woman's voice answered. "Elena Vasquez speaking." "Councilwoman Vasquez? This is Lily Rodriguez. I think you might have seen me this morning during a traffic stop on Maple Street." There was a pause then. "Mrs. Rodriguez? Yes, I hoped you would call. I've been keeping an eye on Officers Reyes and Patel for some time now." "So I've heard," Lily said. "I'd like to file a formal complaint, and my husband has already drafted a statement." "Excellent," Councilwoman Vasquez replied, sounding pleased. "But I should tell you, that video of your encounter has already made quite an impact. I've received calls from 3 different news outlets, and the police chief's office just reached out to me as well." Lily caught Tom's eye, raising her eyebrows in surprise. "The police chief?" "Yes," the councilwoman confirmed. "It seems the department is suddenly very interested in reviewing their traffic stop procedures. Your husband made quite an impression." Tom could hear the conversation and gave a small, satisfied nod. "We've been asked to come in for a meeting tomorrow morning." Councilwoman Vasquez continued. "The chief, myself, and the head of the Civilian Oversight Committee. Would you and your husband be willing to join us? Your perspective would be invaluable." Lily didn't hesitate. "Yes, we'll be there." After getting the details for the meeting, Lily ended the call and turned to Tom. "They want us at the police headquarters tomorrow at 9 a.m. The chief will be there, along with the councilwoman and someone from Civilian Oversight." Tom nodded thoughtfully. "This is moving quickly." "Too quickly?" Lily asked, suddenly uncertain. "Do you think they're just trying to sweep it under the rug before it gets more attention?" "Possibly," Tom admitted. "But having the councilwoman and Civilian Oversight there is a good sign. And if they try to dismiss this, we still have the option of going public with the full story." Lily's phone buzzed yet again. This time it was a number she didn't recognize, with a text that simply read, "Mrs. Rodriguez, this is Detective Rivera with Internal Affairs. I'd like to speak with you regarding your encounter with Officers Reyes and Patel this morning. Please call at your convenience." She showed the message to Tom, whose eyebrows shot up. "Internal Affairs already? Now that is interesting. What does it mean?" Lily asked. "It means," Tom said slowly, "that someone high up in the department saw that video and decided to get ahead of the situation. Internal affairs doesn't get involved for simple complaint reviews. Lily felt a weight lifting from her shoulders, not completely, but enough to make breathing easier. What had happened that morning had been wrong, and now people in positions of power were acknowledging it. Should I call back now or wait until after we've met with the chief? She asked. Tom thought for a moment. Call now, but keep it brief. Say you're happy to meet, but you'd like to attend tomorrow's meeting first to understand the full context of the situation. Lily nodded and began dialing. As the phone rang, she looked at Tom and mouthed, "Thank you." He smiled back, mouthing, "Always." Detective Rivera answered on the fourth ring, and Lily straightened her shoulders, ready to tell her story once again, this time to someone who might actually do something about it. Police headquarters looked different in daylight. Lily had driven past the imposing brick building countless times on her way to the hospital, but she'd never been inside. Now, as she and Tom walked up the wide stone steps, she felt a flutter of anxiety in her stomach. "Nervous?" Tom asked quietly, giving her hand a gentle squeeze. "A little," she admitted. "I didn't expect to spend my day off in a meeting with the police chief." Tom checked his watch. "We're 15 minutes early. Want to grab a coffee across the street first?" Lily shook her head. "No, I'd rather go in now. Being early gives us the advantage." Tom smiled at that. "You've been listening to my trial prep talks?" "Something like that," she replied with a small smile of her own. As they reached the top of the steps, the glass door slid open and Councilwoman Vasquez emerged to greet them. In person, she was shorter than Lily had expected, but she carried herself with unmistakable authority. Her dark gray pantsuit and crisp white blouse spoke of someone who understood the power of presentation. "Mr. and Mrs. Rodriguez," she said warmly, extending her hand. "Thank you for coming. I'm Elena Vasquez." They shook hands, and Lily was struck by the firmness of the councilwoman's grip. "Please call me Lily," she said, "and this is my husband, Tom." "Elena," the councilwoman replied with a nod. "Let's walk together. I'd like to brief you before we go in." As they entered the building, Elena lowered her voice. "The meeting has grown a bit since we spoke yesterday. The mayor saw the video and decided to attend, and Chief Porter has asked that Officers Reyes and Patel be present as well." Tom's eyebrows shot up. "The officers will be there? That wasn't part of the original plan." "No, it wasn't," Elena agreed. "The chief made the decision this morning. He says it's about transparency. But between us, I think he wants to send a message to his department. This video has caused quite a stir." Lily felt her heart rate increase. "I don't know if I'm comfortable facing those officers again so soon." Elena stopped walking and turned to face them. "I understand completely. If you'd prefer they not be present, I can insist on that. This meeting should be on your terms." Lily glanced at Tom, who gave her a reassuring nod. "Whatever you want, I'll back you up." She took a deep breath. "No, it's okay. Let them be there. I want them to hear directly from me how their actions made me feel." "Good for you," Elena said with approval. "Just know that I'll be right there beside you, and the mayor is firmly on our side on this issue." They continued down a long hallway, passing officers who eyed them curiously. Lily wondered if they had seen the video, if they knew who she was. The thought made her stand a little straighter. Elena stopped outside a large conference room. Through the glass wall, Lily could see several people already seated around a polished wooden table. She recognized Chief Porter from his occasional appearances on local news, a tall man with salt and pepper, hair and the build of someone who still maintained the physical standards he expected from his officers despite being in his 50s. Beside him sat a woman in a crisp suit whom Lily didn't recognize, and at the far end of the table, Mayor Wilson was checking something on his phone. There was no sign of Officers Reyes and Patel yet. "Ready?" Elena asked, her hand on the door handle. Lily nodded, smoothing down her blouse. She'd opted for business casual, wanting to look professional without seeming overdressed. Tom, ever the attorney, wore a full suit. They entered the room and everyone looked up. The chief stood immediately, extending his hand. "Mrs. Rodriguez, Mr. Rodriguez, thank you for coming. I'm Chief Porter." His handshake was formal, his expression carefully neutral, but Lily detected a hint of tension around his eyes. "Thank you for having us," Tom replied professionally. The mayor approached next, more effusive in his greeting. "Mrs. Rodriguez, I want to personally apologize for your experience. That's not how we want our police force to interact with the citizens of this city, especially not our healthcare workers." Lily appreciated the sentiment but noted that the apology came before they'd even discussed what had happened. Was this damage control rather than genuine concern? The woman in the suit introduced herself as Diane Fletcher, head of the Civilian Oversight Committee. "We're very interested in hearing your account of yesterday's events," she said, gesturing for them to take seats at the table. They had just settled in when the door opened again, and Officers Reyes and Patel entered. Both were in uniform, their expressions solemn. Officer Reyes looked much as he had during the traffic stop, confident and slightly defiant. Officer Patel, by contrast, seemed uncomfortable, his eyes darting around the room before settling on a point somewhere above Lily's head. "Officers, please join us," Chief Porter said, gesturing to the two remaining seats directly across from Lily and Tom. The seating arrangement wasn't lost on Lily. It positioned them like opposing sides in a courtroom. She caught Tom's eye, and his slight nod told her he'd noticed it too. "Now that everyone's here," the chief began, "I want to be clear about the purpose of this meeting. We're here to understand what happened yesterday morning during a traffic stop involving Mrs. Rodriguez and to discuss appropriate next steps." Mayor Wilson leaned forward. "Before we begin, I think it's important to acknowledge that a video of this incident has now been viewed over 300,000 times online. This is no longer just about one traffic stop. It's about public perception of our police force and how we handle situations like this." Lily blinked in surprise. 300,000 views? The last she'd heard, it was just over 50,000. "What's relevant is whether department policies were followed," Chief Porter said firmly, "not social media reactions." "I'd argue both are relevant," Elena countered. "But let's start with the facts. Mrs. Rodriguez, would you please share your account of what happened?" All eyes turned to Lily. She took a deep breath, grateful for Tom's steady presence beside her, and began recounting the events of the previous morning. From being pulled over to the officer's dismissive tone, the unfounded accusations, and how the situation changed when Tom arrived. As she spoke, she noticed Officer Patel shifting uncomfortably in his seat. Officer Reyes, meanwhile, maintained his stoic expression, though his jaw tightened noticeably when she described his condescending tone. "And at no point did either officer clearly state why I'd been pulled over," Lily concluded. "First, it was crossing a center line that doesn't exist, then a taillight that was working perfectly. It felt like they were fishing for a reason after the fact." Chief Porter turned to the officers. "Officer Reyes, is this account accurate?" Officer Reyes sat up straighter. "Not entirely, sir. Mrs. Rodriguez was observed driving erratically. We had valid reason to suspect possible impairment." "Could you be more specific about what you observed?" Diane Fletcher asked, pen poised over her notepad. "Irregular speed drifting within the lane," Officer Reyes said confidently. "Standard indicators of a tired or impaired driver." "Yet you didn't conduct a field sobriety test," Tom pointed out. "If you truly suspected impairment, wouldn't that have been protocol?" "We were about to when you arrived, sir," Officer Reyes replied, a hint of defensiveness creeping into his voice. "That's not true," Lily said quietly but firmly. "You had my license and registration for several minutes before my husband arrived. You were running my information, not preparing for a sobriety test." Officer Patel cleared his throat, drawing everyone's attention. "Sir, if I may," Chief Porter nodded. "Go ahead, Officer Patel." "The truth is," he said, not meeting his partner's glare, "we didn't observe any specific traffic violation. We were told to increase stops in that area due to recent break-ins, and Mrs. Rodriguez was driving at an unusual hour." A heavy silence fell over the room. Lily exchanged a glance with Tom, who raised an eyebrow slightly. This was new information. "So there was no erratic driving?" Chief Porter asked, his voice dangerously quiet. Officer Patel swallowed visibly. "No, sir. Not that I observed." Officer Reyes turned to his partner in disbelief. "What are you doing?" "Telling the truth," Officer Patel replied, finally looking directly at Lily. "I'm sorry, Mrs. Rodriguez. You didn't deserve to be treated that way." The mayor let out a low whistle. Elena leaned back in her chair, a small, satisfied smile playing at her lips. "Officer Reyes," Chief Porter said, "do you have anything to add?" Officer Reyes's face had flushed dark red. "My partner is mistaken. There was reasonable suspicion for the stop." "Which was it?" Tom asked calmly. "Crossing a center line, a dim taillight, drifting within the lane, or simply driving at an unusual hour? Because those are 4 different reasons we've heard so far. Before Officer Reyes could respond, Diane Fletcher intervened. I think we've established that the justification for this stop was questionable at best. What concerns me more is the tone and conduct during the stop, as Mrs. Rodriguez described and as is evident in the video. I agree, the mayor said. The way these officers spoke to a citizen, a healthcare worker no less, is completely unacceptable. Chief Porter nodded slowly. Officers Reyes and Patel, you're both dismissed for now. Report to Internal Affairs. Detective Rivera is expecting you. We'll continue this discussion later. The officers stood, Officer Reyes rigid with anger, Officer Patel looking almost relieved. They left without another word, the door closing firmly behind them. Mrs. Rodriguez, Chief Porter said, turning back to Lily. On behalf of the department, I apologize for your experience. It falls well short of our standards. Thank you, Lily said. But I'm not here for an apology. I'm here because I want to make sure this doesn't happen to anyone else. The mayor nodded approvingly. What would you like to see happen? Lily glanced at Tom, who gave her an encouraging nod. She'd thought carefully about this question overnight. 3 things, she said, counting on her fingers. First, a review of traffic stop protocols, especially regarding the treatment of drivers. Second, better oversight of officers with multiple complaints. And third, a community liaison program that gives citizens a direct line to report concerns without fear of retaliation. Elena smiled broadly. Those are exactly the kinds of reforms my office has been pushing for. They're reasonable requests, Chief Porter acknowledged, though Lily noticed he didn't immediately agree to them. More than reasonable, the mayor added. In fact, I'd like to invite both of you to join a new task force we're forming to address police-community relations. Your perspective would be invaluable. Tom looked surprised. That's a generous offer, but my wife works full-time as a nurse and I have my legal practice. The commitment would be minimal, Diane assured them. Monthly meetings mainly, and your input could help shape real change. Lily found herself nodding. I'd be interested in learning more, at least. As the meeting continued, discussing logistics and next steps, Lily felt something she hadn't expected. A sense of purpose emerging from what had started as a frightening and humiliating experience. What those officers had done was wrong, but maybe some good could come from it after all. An hour later, as they left the building, Tom put his arm around her shoulders. You were amazing in there. How do you feel? Lily considered the question. Heard, she finally said. For the first time since this happened, I feel like someone actually heard me. Tom smiled. They didn't just hear you, they listened. There's a difference. As they walked down the steps, Lily noticed a news van parked across the street. A reporter looking their way with interest. Looks like they're waiting for a statement, Tom observed. Lily squared her shoulders. Then let's give them one. 3 months later, Lily stood at the podium in City Hall, her hands only slightly trembling as she adjusted the microphone. The council chamber was packed. Community members, reporters, officers in uniform, and hospital colleagues in scrubs who had come straight from their shifts to support her. In the front row, Tom sat with a proud smile, next to Councilwoman Elena Vasquez and Diane Fletcher from Civilian Oversight. Even Betty White, the neighbor who had slipped Lily the business card, was there, nodding encouragingly whenever Lily glanced her way. 6 years ago, when I became a nurse, Lily began, her voice steadier than she felt. I took an oath to treat every patient with compassion and respect. It didn't matter if they came to the ER because of a bar fight or a heart attack. Everyone deserved dignity. She paused, looking out at the attentive faces. 3 months ago, I learned that not everyone in public service shares that philosophy. When I was pulled over after a night shift, I wasn't treated with dignity or respect. I was belittled, intimidated, and made to feel like a criminal, all for the crime of driving home from work. From the corner of her eye, Lily saw Chief Porter shift in his seat at the end of the front row. Their relationship had evolved into something like cautious mutual respect over the past months of working together on the task force. But today isn't about rehashing what happened to me, she continued. It's about celebrating what we've accomplished since then. She gestured to the large screen behind her, where the new Community Accountability and Policing program was displayed. It had been Lily's idea, refined through dozens of meetings with the task force, and finally approved by the City Council last week. This new program creates a clear, Accessible way for citizens to report concerns about police interactions, she explained. Reports go directly to civilian oversight, not just internal affairs. Body camera footage will be automatically flagged for review when certain keywords or phrases are detected, and most importantly, officers will receive additional training on de-escalation and implicit bias. Tom had helped draft much of the legal framework, working pro bono alongside Elena's staff. What had started as a traumatic traffic stop had evolved into a genuine passion project for both of them. I want to be clear about something, Lily said, her voice softening. This isn't anti-police. In fact, many officers have thanked me privately for pushing for these changes. That had been unexpected. The quiet conversations with officers who approached her at community meetings, telling her about situations they'd witnessed but felt powerless to address within the existing system. I'd like to acknowledge Officer Patel, who had the courage to tell the truth about what happened that morning, even when it would have been easier to stay silent. Officer Patel, seated toward the back in civilian clothes, gave a small nod of acknowledgement. After that meeting at headquarters, he had been temporarily suspended, then reassigned to community outreach rather than patrol. Officer Reyes had received a more severe punishment, 6 months without pay and mandatory retraining before he could return to duty. I'd also like to thank Chief Porter, Lily continued, who could have treated this as a PR problem to manage, but instead saw it as an opportunity for meaningful change. The chief nodded, his expression a mix of professional pride and lingering discomfort. He hadn't wanted to be here today, that much was obvious. But his presence sent an important message about the department's commitment to the new program. When my husband showed up that morning and challenged those officers, he wasn't just standing up for me. He was standing up for a principle that those who enforce the law must also respect it, and respect the citizens they're sworn to protect. Tom smiled up at her, and Lily felt a rush of gratitude for his unwavering support through everything that had followed. The media attention, the occasional online harassment, the long hours spent in meetings. I never expected a routine traffic stop to change my life, she said, but it has, not just because of what happened, but because of what happened next, how this community came together to turn a negative experience into positive change. Mayor Wilson approached the podium as Lily finished, shaking her hand as the room erupted in applause. The mayor had been a key ally, recognizing early on that supporting the reforms would benefit both the community and his political future. Thank you, Mrs. Rodriguez, he said into the microphone. Your advocacy has been instrumental in creating what I believe will become a model program for cities across the country. As the formal presentation continued, Lily returned to her seat beside Tom, who squeezed her hand. You did it, he whispered. We did it, she corrected with a smile. After the ceremony, as people mingled and chatted over refreshments, Lily found herself approached by a young female officer she didn't recognize. Mrs. Rodriguez? I'm Officer Chen. I just wanted to say thank you. Lily tilted her head in question. For? I've been on the force for 8 months, Officer Chen explained. What happened with you and Officers Reyes and Patel? Well, it changed things for rookies like me. The senior officers are more careful about what they teach us now. More professional. Lily hadn't expected this, the impact reaching into the daily culture of the department. I'm glad to hear that. Some of the old guard aren't happy about the changes, Officer Chen admitted, but many of us are. We became police officers to help people, not intimidate them. As Officer Chen moved away, Lily felt a tap on her shoulder and turned to find Ava, her colleague from the hospital, grinning broadly. Look at you, changing the world on your days off, Ava teased, pulling Lily into a quick hug. The entire ER staff is talking about it. Dr. Kumar even showed the live stream during our lunch break. Lily laughed. Hardly changing the world. Just one small corner of it. That's how change happens, Tom said, joining them with 3 glasses of sparkling cider. One small corner at a time. As the event wound down, Lily and Tom found themselves walking with Elena and Diane toward the parking lot. What's next for you two? Elena asked. Planning to run for office, Lily. We could use someone with your passion on the council. Lily shook her head with a smile. No thanks. I'm happy being a nurse. Though I will stay involved with the oversight committee if you'll have me. Absolutely, Diane assured her. Your perspective is invaluable. And you, counselor? Elena asked Tom. Any plans to expand your practice into civil rights law?
You seem to have a knack for it. Tom looked thoughtful.
I've actually been considering it. I've had several people reach out after seeing the video, asking for help with similar situations. You'd be good at it, Lily said, realizing she meant it. Tom had always been passionate about his corporate law practice, but she'd seen a different side of him through this experience, a fighter for everyday people. As they reached their car, Elena and Diane said their goodbyes, leaving Lily and Tom alone in the fading evening light. "So," Tom said, leaning against the car, "how does it feel to see it all come together?" Lily took a moment to really consider the question. "Surreal," she finally said. "When I was pulled over that morning, I was just scared and angry. I never imagined it would lead to this." "You turned that fear and anger into something productive," Tom pointed out. "Not everyone would have done that. Many would have just filed a complaint and moved on." "I had help," Lily reminded him. "You, Elena, those neighbors who recorded everything." "True," Tom acknowledged. "But it started with you refusing to be silenced. When you called me that morning, you could have just complied with whatever they asked, even though it wasn't right. But you didn't." Lily thought about how different things might have been if she hadn't made that call, if Tom hadn't arrived when he did, if Officer Patel hadn't found the courage to tell the truth. So many small moments that added up to significant change. "There's something I've been wanting to ask you," she said, changing the subject. "Would you really consider taking on more civil rights cases? It would be a big change from corporate law." Tom nodded slowly. "I've been thinking about it a lot. Helping you with this has reminded me why I became a lawyer in the first place. It wasn't to help big companies navigate tax laws." "I think you should do it," Lily said. "You were amazing through all of this. Not just that morning with the officers, but everything that came after. The meetings, the policy drafting, explaining complex legal issues in ways anyone could understand." Tom smiled, pulling her into an embrace. "Only if you promise to keep me grounded. Remind me what really matters, like you always do." "Always," Lily promised, echoing the word he so often said to her. As they drove home in comfortable silence, Lily found herself thinking about the unexpected journey of the past 3 months. One terrible morning had led to new friendships, a new purpose alongside her nursing career, and even a potential new direction for Tom's legal practice. They pulled into their driveway, and Lily noticed something different, a small sign in their front yard that hadn't been there that morning. She got out of the car for a closer look. "Community Advocate Award, Rodriguez family," she read aloud. "Tom, did you know about this?" He joined her, looking genuinely surprised. "No, but look, there's a note." Attached to the sign was a card. Lily opened it to find a simple message. "From your neighbors. Thank you for standing up for all of us." It wasn't signed, but it didn't need to be. It represented exactly what Lily had hoped for from the beginning. Not just personal vindication, but community change. "Worth it?" Tom asked softly, his arm around her shoulders as they stood looking at the sign in the gathering dusk. Lily thought about the fear of that traffic stop, the stress of the meetings that followed, the occasional backlash from those who thought she was just seeking attention. Then she thought about Officer Chen's words, the new accountability program, and this simple sign of gratitude. "Worth it," she confirmed, leaning into his embrace. "Every second."